If we can go to the next slide, please. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Johnell, co-facilitator for the Community Advisory Group. We'll go ahead and get started. Just a reminder that closed captions are available both in English as well as in Spanish. English closed captions are available within Zoom and YouTube. Users can follow this link to view both English and Spanish captions in a separate browser window, https://ivr.news/captions. Next slide, please. Just a reminder of our operating norms. We want to just thank you for joining us today. Please join by either audio or for audio, either phone or computer, not both. We encourage panelists to turn on your video. Please keep your audio on mute when not speaking. If you experience technical difficulties, please contact program staff at 360-329-6744. Next slide. Just a reminder of how to access closed captions. At the bottom middle of your screen, you should see a menu of options. If you can't see the menu, hover your mouse over the bottom middle of the screen. You'll want to click on the CC icon and a separate window with captions will appear. A reminder that we do have ASL interpretation. In an effort to continue to center equity, there is an ASL interpreter in addition to closed captioning. To make sure the interpreter is always visible, please right-click their video and select Spotlight Video. For those watching on YouTube, when we screen share, you will be able to see the slideshow, closed captioning, and the ASL interpreter. You will still be able to hear different people speaking, but may not see them. Next slide. Just a reminder of our public input instructions. There will be an opportunity to provide brief public input later in the meeting today, roughly around 5:45 p.m. Verbal public comment will be welcome in the Zoom webinar during the designated time with the option to turn on your web camera. Please use the link located in the meeting description on the YouTube meeting page or on the IVR CAG meeting webpage. Commenters will not be allowed to share their screens and will be removed from the room once the public comment period concludes. To comment by phone, please dial 669-900-6833 or 408-638-0968. You'll want to enter the meeting ID number 993-5459-6043, as well as a passcode 674942. Please remember to dial *9 to raise your hand. After you are invited to speak, remember to dial *6 to unmute yourself. Next slide. Just go over our meeting agenda today. Here in just a few moments, we will do a meeting overview. We'll have an opportunity of doing introductions as well as a check-in. We'll then receive program update. We're going to roll up our sleeves and discuss sort of the overview of the IVR tolling work. We'll then receive an update on the CBAG, and then we'll have an opportunity of learning more about community engagement, as well as a discussion on upcoming activities. We'll receive public comment, and then we'll close the meeting. Next slide. Just a reminder of our operating norms. We work to put relationships first, for us to keep focus on our common goal, to always notice the power dynamics in our virtual space here, for us to create space for multiple truths and norms, for us to be kind and brave, that we always practice examining racially biased systems and processes, and that this is a learning environment. We really work to look for learning. Next slide. With that, I will turn it over and welcome our co-chairs, Ed Washington, as well as Lynn Valenter.
Yes. Hello, I'm Ed Washington. For our open discussion, I'd like to have everybody share your name, your organization, your affiliation or at-large status, and your pronouns. And then after that, we will have a check-in. And I'm going to let you know that will be, what is something you couldn't go a week without, other than members of this committee? So I'll turn it over to Lynn in case you want to say something.
Thank you. So I'm Lynn Valenter, co-chair. I work for Reed College, but I'm just the co-chair. My pronouns are she, her, and I couldn't go a week without reading, or at least I wouldn't want to. So I'm gonna pick on Julie.
Hi, this is Julie. My name is Julie Jumbia. I am an at-large member of the Northeast Portland community. And something I couldn't go without these days probably is gardening. I just really, really like it. It's kind of stress relief for me. Okay, and I will go with, let's see, Irina.
Okay, I have my hands raised. Okay, I'm Irina Phillips, economist by training, and I represent East European Coalition, refugees from Eastern Europe. And the week I cannot go without is talking to my mom, who is in Moscow, Russia, and talking to my sons. One is in Corvallis, and another one is here in Portland. And I'm selecting Dina Horton.
Hi, I'm Dina Horton, Government Relations Director for the Pacific Northwest Waterways Association. I represent the river users and multimodal freight movers. She, her pronouns, and I think I could not go a week without coffee. I can barely go a couple of hours without coffee, so a whole week would be worse than a prison sentence for me. So I'd be climbing the walls without it. So I will call on Tom Hickey.
Thank you, Tom Hickey. I represent the North Portland neighborhoods on the CAG. I couldn't go a week without learning something new on my ukulele. Right now I'm studying Duke Ellington's Mood Indigo.
Cool.
Martha.
We may need a guest appearance of a minute or two at some point, Tom, just saying. Sorry.
Martha Wiley, I'm a member at large with sort of a focus on transit, particularly paratransit. And I couldn't go a week without a hot shower. Sorry, every day, hot shower. And I will call on Jarina Hatch.
Hi, I'm Jarina Hatch with Community in Motion. I'm in Vancouver, Washington. I think I could not go a week. I'm gonna say, honestly, I'm a coffee girl too. Can't go without my coffee. I'm gonna select Sam.
All right, so Sam Kim, my pronouns he, him. I'm an at-large member living out of Brush Prairie, working Olympia for Employment Security Department. Because of this time of the year and because it's such a sunny day, I can't go a week without mowing the lawn on my tractor. Otherwise, it gets out of control. I'm going to pick Mr. Bill Prowse.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Prowse. I'm the Director of Business Development Events and Youth Programming for the Oregon Association of Minority Entrepreneurs here right across the river from Vancouver. We're in Delta Park. I'm he, him pronouns. I don't think I can go a week these days without some kind of news, what's happening in the news, both locally, federally, and county. I wake up to the news and I probably go to sleep with the news, but I do put some other crazy television in between that, but I do like to watch the news. Let's see, who has not spoken yet? How about if I go with Greg?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Greg Johnson, IBR Program Administrator, he, him, and something I can't go a week without. Let me see if I can get this on camera. Mountain Dew. That is my guilty pleasure. So, only way I get my caffeine. So I will go to, how about Jana Jarvis?
Hi, this is Jana Jarvis. I'm with Oregon Trucking Association, and I can't go a week without talking to my grandsons. So there you go. I don't know who is left to call on. I'm completely confused. So raise your hand if you haven't done.
Welcome to our world. I think we've covered everyone. Is there anybody we've missed? No.
I see Steve Barnett.
So I'm Steve Barnett. I'm representing the Cowlitz Indian tribe, and I can't go without music. And I also have no idea who's gone and who hasn't.
Well, you might have just batted cleanup for us. I'm looking closely to see if there's anybody else who hasn't done an intro.
Maybe Tom?
Tom
Sandler?
Sandler? I think he just joined. Tom?
Yeah.
I think you're on mute, Tom. If you're
It's breaking up a little bit.
Can you guys hear me? Hello?
now we can. Thank you.
All right. I'm Clark College Capital Projects Manager, live in Oregon, work in Vancouver, so represents the both sides. One thing that every single day would be my cup of coffee. I think it's not the caffeine, it's just the habit of drinking the coffee is what keeps me alive. So
All right. Well, I think we're going to just presume that if you didn't raise your hand, you don't really want to talk to us, but we will give you love anyway. And with that, I think we're going to go to, if I got this right, Megan Hodges. Are you going to?
We're going to go to Greg first.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I see that. Sorry about that.
No
Sorry,
problem.
Greg, wasn't trying to overlook you.
That is perfectly fine. So, good afternoon, everyone. Once again, Greg Johnson, Program Administrator for IBR. And let's go to the next slide. The team continues to be very busy, but some other activities that have been going on outside of our purview. The Bi-State Tolling Subcommittee has been active. They met last on April 19th. Their next meeting, actually, this May 17th date is wrong. The next meeting will be actually May 23rd. So if you are interested in the conversation of what tolling is going to happen on the interstate bridge, this is the group to tune into. And if you don't have the information, you can go to our website and we will have the links to that information. We continue to be out with our community engagement, talking to neighborhoods. We just had a meeting with High Noon on Hayden Island. That is the neighborhood group on the island itself. Had a great conversation. Our technical team did some presentations on where we are at. We met with the Rose Village Neighborhood Association, as well as the Bridgeton Neighborhood Association, which has been a continuing conversation. Once again, if there are folks who want to hear from IBR, please contact us. We also were at Vancouver IT Prep, talking to young folks about getting involved and explaining to them what the program is. So there's a couple of other things that I had a recent invite to WSU Vancouver to their Ruckle House breakfast, which was a fascinating meeting for me. That's a group that's looking at regional issues. They're kind of a clearinghouse and a neutral player to help resolve conflict in the region. So we are, I explained where we were at on the bridge, and we will be having more conversations with those folks, but very interesting group of people. We also did the Port of Vancouver Spring Tenant event, and the Port of Vancouver is going to, we are going to have impact on them. They are going to have impact on the overall project. So we are making sure we are staying in close contact with the port. So the next bullet, our draft supplemental environmental impact statement release timing update. So I believe at our last meeting, you may have received that we were kind of in this vicious cycle of submitting and having some things rejected for our overall modeling of traffic and ridership on the system. We have resolved that issue. It took a long time to get it done, but our team dug in along with our federal partners and along with a couple of our other transportation partners, TriMet and Metro. That issue has now been resolved. So we are moving forward. We are hoping later this year to release that draft supplemental. It has to go through a number of federal processes to get to that release. We have to have a legal review. So all of those things do take time, but we feel that we are back on a path. And to re-emphasize the importance, we have just sent back what is called a federal roadmap. And this is a document that the US DOT has used on other mega projects to get commitment to schedule. So we are, they sent to us, we were looking for it, they sent it to us. We have made our comments and sent it back. So we're hoping that this federal roadmap will now be our North Star guiding us to completion dates, so we hold each other responsible as we move forward. And last but not least, we had a very successful Industry Day event. We were over at Metro's Expo Center in North Portland. We expected between 200 and 240 participants, contractors, consultants, and we ended up with over 340 participants. And what we explained to them, we rolled out our draft delivery plan for how IBR plans on delivering these over 28 packages. So we talked about package sizing, we talked about delivery methods, whether it's traditional design, bid, build, design, build, construction manager, general contractor, progressive design, build. All of those things were discussed with the industry to get their feedback before we finalize our overall delivery plan. So a great event. We got rave reviews from the participants, and so we have a lot of follow-up to do. So those are the things that's going on. The program continues to do design work. We're going to have a equity roundtable, I believe, on the 21st of May, where we're going to be talking about active transportation. So this is going to be continue to be a busy time as we're steaming towards getting that draft supplemental document released. So with that, I'll end and I'll take questions. And I see Bill has a hand up. So go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that you did also have a representative at our trade show last week, a week ago today. We had 133 trade show booths at the Oregon Convention Center. About 1,500 people went through, and I'll be sending you guys the picture of your booth and who was sitting there. And I think it was very well attended and very interesting. I've got a picture of it, but it shows two people talking to your folks at that point in time. So that's another one that you went to, May 2nd.
Bill, thank you very much. We plan on continuing our efforts of being out in the community, being at events. So once again, if this group knows of any event that we should be at, please let us know. But with Bill's comment, that reminds me of one other thing. We recently had a visit from the USDOT, the acting undersecretary for policy was here in town for the APTA mobility convention hosted by TriMet. And he requested a meeting with the IBR team. So we met, we gave him a tour of the bridge and had about a half hour to 45-minute sit-down conversation. So once again, we are on the radar screen of the folks back in DC. One of the key things that he said that relates to what this group is doing is that the advisory groups, the community advisory group, equity advisory group, community benefits advisory group are key and best practices for projects like this. So he was very complimentary of the efforts to engage the community at all levels. So thanks to you folks, we are getting that national recognition for best practices. So I'll take any other questions that anyone may have. Ed, go right ahead.
Great. Just have a question. With regards to the devastating destruction of the bridge in Maryland, I believe it was. Yes. Does something like that, is there any kind of ripple effect on other projects, or how does that work?
So a couple of things. This is a great question, Ed. We've been asked if that will impact the funding stream that we are applying for. We currently have a $1.5 billion grant application into USDOT. This tragic event will not have an impact. Those will get taken out of Federal Highway Administration emergency funds. So the impact that it does have is that we have to take closer looks at our design. We have to take a closer look at how we are protecting our piers in the water in a navigable waterway. Now, ships of that size, and for folks who don't know, it's the Francis Scott Key Bridge on the loop around the city of Baltimore. It's I-695. That is, Baltimore is one of the major container ports on the East Coast. So there are a huge number of container ships that go in and out of that port that cross under that bridge. So one of the container ships with a payload of more than 1 million pounds lost power and drifted into one of the bridge supports, which took the bridge down. So on the Columbia River, virtually all of the container vessels of any size actually go down the Willamette River before they would get to our bridge. And also, we are blessed with having a railroad bridge that is in between us and any traffic of that sort. So not saying that it would be good if the railroad bridge gets hit, but a ship would have to find its way through the railroad bridge before it would get to us. So we would have a good indication of if there's a problem. So, but it is I had, in my previous life as state highway administrator, had driven across that bridge. It was not under state highway jurisdiction. It's a Maryland Toll Authority bridge, but an important piece of infrastructure. So, Lynn, take your question.
So can you just update us for if there is a targeted opportunity for feedback on the draft SCIS? I know you said the submission, we've kind of got the submission time frame ironed out, but do we know when we might have it back?
So what we have to do is we will make a submittal to our federal partners. They will review it for legal sufficiency. And once they review it, we will go into a publishing mode, and then we will release the document. So we think that that will be sometime this fall. Once again, we don't have some specific dates because we have to get through processes that are not under our control. But we think this fall, with the release of the document, then we will have 60 days to have public hearings, open houses, and for the public to comment on the document. And then we will take all of those comments, answer those as we move into the final stage of the environmental process.
So I realize this is not a firm commitment, but estimated time from the time we submit it till the time we go out for public comment, is that 60, 90 days or what?
We think it will probably be in the neighborhood of 90 days.
Okay, thank you.
So Zach.
Hey, Greg, and to everyone, I apologize for being late. I was picking up my child from school. And so if you answered this already, just say, watch the recording. It's been a pretty big delay on the draft EIS. And so it's not like, someone forgot to capitalize some letters. It's something probably bigger than that, right? And so I was curious are you at liberty to share with us, like what did happen or why are we at this pretty significant delay? Because I know you all talked about the impact of delay financially as well. So you talk a little bit about like the what?
So, I mentioned it earlier, what happened is we have a modeling issue with our federal partners. We're looking at the regional model that projects ridership, and they were trying to harmonize that with what they have seen across the country. And so we have worked on that issue. We'd bring them something we thought was what they wanted and needed, and it'd get rejected. We bring them something else, it got rejected. So finally we got everybody in the room and said, we need to find this solution now. So we did. We have reached resolution on the modeling issue. And it took way too long to do it, but we have reached understanding. Everybody is nodding their head yes, this is sufficient. And so we are steaming back on track. Now, what that does to us, it has endangered our first in-water work window that we projected for 2026. So we don't know that it's a dead issue yet because we may have a contractor that may see a different way. But right now we're going to start looking at what parts of the program we can move forward into that space and still break ground in late 2025, early 2026. We just won't be in the river in that fall of 2026 time period, it appears at this point. So we're looking on how we can make up time in that schedule because the old equation is still true, time equals money. Any other questions or concerns that I can answer for Martha.
Yeah, I'm sort of hesitant to ask this, but I thought I'll just go ahead. And if you don't care to answer it, I understand. How do you see, if at all, any impact from the election in November affecting this project?
Martha, it's a great question. We don't think that we will see significant impacts, no matter who occupies the White House, what the makeup of the Senate or the House is, for the mere fact that this is a tremendously recognized infrastructure project across party lines, and we have broad support for getting this key piece of infrastructure renewed. So things can always change, things can always happen, but at this point, we think that the US DOT will be the same US DOT. They may have different leadership, but their priorities are to make sure that infrastructure is renewed so we don't have negative impacts to the economy with failing infrastructure. So I don't think that will be a large concern. Other questions that I can answer for you? All right, well, Johnell, I will turn it back over to you.
Great, thank you, Administrator Johnson. Next up, we have Megan Hodges with the IBR program to discuss an update relative to tolling. So, Megan.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. I was here presenting to all of you back in October, I think, of last year to give an overall tolling update. So today I am going to repeat a couple of those slides just as a reminder leading up to the next meeting. And then we have some new ones that get a little bit more technical because we are leading into next month's meeting, which will include some feedback from you folks related to tolling specifically. So my hope is that this presentation and the next one will prepare you to provide some of that feedback. So next slide, please. So this is just a reminder of the overall program funding. So I know that tolling is not something that the general public is the biggest fan of. So we like to remind people that that is not the only way that we are planning to fund the program, that we have multiple sources, including a large chunk of federal grants that we are looking to receive, and then their state contributions. And tolling is kind of one smaller piece of that pie. That is a direct impact thing that the public does need to pay. So it feels more impactful, but it is alongside many other funding sources. And so the tolls on the bridge will be dedicated to pay for the bridge itself. It's not going to be a toll collection that then funds other regional projects. It will be implemented just to fund the bridge. Next slide, please. And on this program, there's tolling in itself does provide some benefits to kind of the corridor or the regional system. But on our program, it is also the only thing is helping to fund all of the program improvements. So not only does it help improve the reliability of the facility and kind of make drivers think before they get in their car about how they are traveling, where they are traveling, and when, but it's also a key piece of our funding strategy that allows us to build all of the IBR program improvements. So by tolling on the bridge, we can help build those IBR program improvements that include multimodal access. So that means that we can fund the full $6 billion, which will, when we build those improvements, improve reliability of the system, improve safety of the system, reduce congestion, and help meet state climate goals by reducing some of the emissions into the air when we improve reliability. Next slide.
Megan, you have a hand up from Jana Jarvis.
We can pause.
Megan, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I didn't
No,
want
you're
to
okay.
interrupt per se, but I just wanted to put this in your thoughts as we're thinking about congestion pricing on the I-5 bridge, is that freight needs are not, freight doesn't have an option not to travel at certain times of the day. And so I think how that is represented in your rate structure needs to be very carefully thought out. And of course, I'm here to help you, but that's the simple fact of the matter is, I think this concept that we're going to move people off the freeway at certain times of the day doesn't work when you're thinking of freight. So I just wanted to put that in your thoughts. Thank you.
Sure. And I think the hope is that it moves some of the optional trips and then frees up space for the trips that aren't optional. Many people need to travel on the facility to go to jobs, and they can't just say, well, I won't go to work today and I will stay home. Some people do have that option. And same thing, freight and commerce needs to continue moving. People need services, they need goods, and trucks need to continue to bring that to people across the region and up and down the interstate. So I think the hope is to take the optional vehicles off or put them in another mode, like light rail or bus or bike pedestrian facilities, and then create more space on the interstate for those that need it.
I understand that, but when you're building your freight rates and you're considering those costs, if it's variable by time of day, it doesn't pencil out well for in commercial traffic. So I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Dina.
Yeah, thank you. I echo Jenna's concerns as the highway network is connected to rail and to the ports that ship things on the water. All of those costs add up to the folks that are producing and shipping things overseas. So just wanted to tag on to that. But also, you mentioned the $6 billion cost estimate. I wanted to see, given some of the rule changes that went into effect related to critical habitat and mitigation for projects and other things that started on Monday, as a matter of fact, is that still the current estimate, or given some of the potential folks that may need to be relocated and other costs as a result of if you are going to have a fixed span bridge, is that still $6 billion? Is that still the overall estimate, or is it potentially higher?
So, Megan, I'll jump in on that one. We are in the process of, we have a estimate that was completed approximately 1.5 years ago. That was a risk-based estimate. As we learn more about our design, after we get through this draft supplemental, we will be engaging in another estimating process with more refined information. So we think we will know more late next spring, early summer of 2025 with a new estimate. But currently our estimate ranges between 5 and 7.5. We have seen projects around the country experience inflation. So we know that that's going to be a factor in what our new number may look like. So, but yeah, that number we'll be expecting to come out probably early summer of 2025.
And one follow-up question, Greg, in terms of, you talked about the estimates for the design. Can you remind me how much potentially more expensive a lift span design would be versus a fixed span?
So our current estimates is that a lift span would cost approximately $500 million more in today's dollars than a fixed span bridge. Okay. And then there's also the continuing operational cost of a movable span bridge. So it is not an inconsequential number.
Thank you.
Zach?
Yeah, sorry, Megan. We're going off on the rails here. I just wanted to follow up real quick. Greg, you mentioned there about the cost of inflation and affecting the prices. I was under the impression that those cost estimates, that $5 to $7-ish billion, incorporated the inflation already into it. But then I just heard you say that it might have more. Can you just clarify? Does the estimates include inflation, or are estimates not including inflation, or just today dollars?
They do, and they do include inflation and escalation. But as we go further, we know more. We projected what we would see for the next year, for the next 10 years, but those trends are changing constantly. So we are seeing higher rates of inflation in the construction of transportation infrastructure. So we'll be looking once again closely at what those trends are and adjusting. If inflation was going down, we would see a lower number coming out of this, but we are not seeing that yet in transportation construction projects.
Okay, thanks for that clarifying.
Back to you, Megan.
Okay, we're gonna go back to it, and then I will pause for more questions at the end, because I'm sure the rest of my slides will just create more questions. So next slide, please. Okay, so Jana's comments about toll rates and variable rate schedule, I think that is that, and the other feedback that we've received from all of you and members of the public along the way is the reason that I'm here today and the reason that we are inviting folks to the next meeting. So the WashDOT and ODOT, we do not set the toll rates. The Transportation Commission set the toll rates. So they are the decision makers on how much a truck is charged, how much a car is charged to cross the bridge, whether there are exemptions or discounts for various drivers. So the program does do analysis of options, and we provide that information to the Transportation Commissions to inform their decision making. But we don't take the action, that we, the DOTs, don't take the action to set those rates. So in our next meeting, we will have staff that supports the Oregon Transportation Commission and staff that supports the Washington Transportation Commission come to this meeting and provide some information and get feedback from all of you. And that could include whatever range of things you guys identify that you'd like to share with them. And hopefully today's presentation will help you start thinking about that. And then in addition to the Transportation Commissions and the DOTs, I will add that WashDOT also manages the toll program in Washington. So they are the ones that own the equipment on the local freeways, and they send bills to the travelers that cross a tolled facility, and they take payment from travelers, and they communicate how to set up a toll account, all of those pieces. So in your next meeting, we will also have WashDOT come and share more about what it's like to be a toll customer when you travel on a WashDOT toll facility. And then in addition to that, we have the Oregon and Washington legislature, which each authorize tolling on facilities, and then they identify how toll revenue can be spent. Next slide. So this update, I think either Greg or Frank had already provided to you. I'm just repeating it so that we remember this as we go into the next meeting. As you probably know, tolling was planned to be implemented in Oregon, and the governor of Oregon announced in March that she was requesting that, or I guess directing that ODOT stop work on the RMPP project. And then pause and delay additional RMPP is regional mobility pricing, which was the plans or the draft plans that they were working on to toll portions of all of I-5 and 205. They were still working on where those toll points would be and what it would look like, but that work is no longer moving forward. And then the governor directed to delay additional expenditures on the I-205 Abernathy Bridge toll project. So that's the one kind of on the southern end of this map in orange, pretty far away from IBR. So that one they are paused on until after this next session, when they hope to get more direction from the legislature on whether it's important or whether the legislature wants them to continue moving forward with it. But for now, they aren't moving forward on working on that. And so there is no timeline for that starting, which means that when tolling starts for IBR, which is currently planned for 2026, we would be the only toll facility in the Portland metro area, which is a shift from what had been the case a few months ago. So this is so WashDOT will now own the equipment for tolling that sits on the bridge in the future, which is one of the reasons why we are having the WashDOT toll division come to this meeting to share more about what it's like to be a customer on a WashDOT tolled facility. But the Oregon Transportation Commission and Washington Transportation Commission are going to continue working together, and decisions about toll rates and policies still rest with both commissions, even if tolling is not moving forward in Oregon. So next slide, please. And this is just a reminder, we still get these comments on Columbian articles and everywhere. There will not be a toll booth. Once tolling is implemented, you will not have to stop and throw your quarter in the bucket. I can pull the toll token out of my desk here from 1958 when tolls were on the bridge. It will look way different in the future than it did in 1958. So it will be electronic. So you would have either a little kind of sensor that sits on your window or a sensor on your license plate that the toll equipment can read and knows to bill you for your trip across the bridge. Or if you don't have an account, it will read your license plate, get your address information, and send you the bill in the mail. And again, WashDOT will share more about that in the next meeting. And then currently, following kind of early analysis, it is anticipated that tolling on the I-5 bridge would be variable rate tolling. So that means that during peak travel periods like the afternoon rush hour and morning rush hour, the cost to cross the bridge would be higher than it would be overnight or in the middle of the day. And that helps kind of reduce the demand during those peak hours and helps traffic flow better. But that has to be put in place by the commissions before that is kind of solidified. I'm going to pause. Julie, you have a question.
Yeah, just a quick thought. That could be really great for tracking stolen cars across the border too, both ways. With the license plate
Zach,
reading.
we're going to pause again. Go ahead.
Thank you. I feel like I asked too many questions. If I do, just tell me to shut up, everybody. It's okay. You know, I was at a Vision Zero, which is about traffic safety, council meeting a couple weeks ago, and the number that PBOT cited of unregistered vehicles were 40% of the vehicles in Portland were unregistered. Let that sink in. 40%, which is just an astonishing number. And we're talking about doing license plate reading in order to send tolls. And so I can imagine that would be challenging if you have unregistered vehicles and then where those bills go to. Can you talk a little bit about that? And then I'm also just thinking about it through the lens, and Jana, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to guess freight trucks are not registered. I bet freight trucks are registered at a much, much higher rate than 40%. And that could cause an imbalance where freight's all registered and they're all paying, and cars aren't registered at this large number and they're skipping tolls unless there's a system. So could you just talk a little bit about that challenge and what the fix is?
Yeah, so I think the comment that Julie made and your comment, those are good questions for the next meeting when the WashDOT toll division is here, and they can speak to what they experience in real life on those other facilities. There are challenges with license plate reading, both in terms of not getting a clear picture, a car not having a license plate on it, and unregistered vehicles. I'm not deep enough in the weeds yet to speak to exactly what the process looks like when that happens. I know that they do have, that is revenue, right, that they don't end up getting because of those challenges. I think it is, while it is a real problem, it is a small percentage. And in the end, you still do get the overall toll funding that's needed to fund projects. So the benefit, I guess, depending on your perspective, the benefit outweighs that downside. But I think they can speak to more how often that actually occurs on real facilities in the state. All right, we're going to keep pausing. Questions. Let's keep going. Maybe I'll get to your answers, though. You don't know. Sam.
Well, great presentation. I actually just have a comment as a frequent user of these toll roads up north. Glad to know that it's going to be good to go, so I don't need another transponder, number one. Number two, from my personal experience, the license reader, oh my gosh, they're amazingly accurate. You can't get away with it. So it's really good.
Bill?
Yeah, maybe I missed a meeting of some sort, but have they stopped talking about tolling bicycles and rollers, those kinds of things, other than trucks and cars?
What I would say is that there are no facilities regionally that put, or WashDOT does not toll bikes and pedestrians. Nationally, maybe they do. I think the thought is that vehicles put a little more wear and tear on the interstate. Bikes and pedestrians don't really put wear and tear on sidewalks to the extent that vehicles do. But you could also provide that comment when Transportation Commission staff is here. I don't know how much they've considered implementing a toll on bikes and pedestrians.
They do use the facility though, so.
Yeah. Jana.
Thank you. I thought the comment about evasion and how that would impact the percentages that commercial vehicles would pay versus passenger vehicles is an interesting thing to consider. And I think there is a lot of experience nationally with what it costs to collect tolls. It's much more expensive than collecting a gas tax, for example, and what the evasion rates are and how that plays out in other jurisdictions would be helpful to our conversation as we move forward on this. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we asked this question last time of what other information related to tolls folks would like to hear. So I think now we can start or continue that list for our topics we want to go more in the weeds on related to tolls. So thank you, Jana. Martha?
Yeah, I'm interested, and I know your answer is going to be, let's talk about that next time. But what about buses and paratransit? Will they be tolled? And so will the passengers on those vehicles be paying a portion for their toll? And I know that's not something, I don't think that's something you can answer, but maybe you could make a note and bring that up the next time you're meeting with the transit organizations.
And yeah, so you are partially correct. What I will say is that the light rail vehicles won't be tolled because they will be on their own track. So your question about buses and paratransit, that is a decision that will be ahead of the Oregon and Washington Transportation Commission. So that is a decision they've made on other facilities statewide. Both the Oregon Transportation Commission and Washington Commissions have exempted some forms of that. I think it's different on different facilities. So that is one of the decisions they need to make alongside the toll rates. So I would recommend that you provide that feedback and say you hope that buses and paratransit are exempted or discounted or whatever. You're muted, but I think you just said thank you. Okay, let's keep going. Slides back up, please. All right, next slide.
And just a real quick note to our CAG members. We have probably another 5 or 6 minutes. So if you could just hold your questions and let Megan get through the rest of her presentation, we'll take a few more after that. Go ahead, Megan.
Okay, this one is far too complicated. And every time I try to make it less complicated, detail gets added back in. So I will just give you the key takeaways for this slide. I think one thing that's helpful to understand is one of the reasons we toll is to provide a payback source for a construction loan. So we want to start constructing the bridge in late 2025, early 2026. But to do that, we need funding to be in the water and on that bridge and have a construction contractor hired. But we need to have all of the money in our pocket to start doing that. So tolling allows us to, once we have all the approvals in both states, to get a loan and then a construction loan and then to pay it back via toll revenue. And when we do that, we have to have a contract. So this is kind of like a home loan, but they want to know what our repayment source is. And instead of our salary, it is tolls. But when they give us that loan, they typically have a few stipulations of things that we need to do to qualify for that loan. And one of those is they want to make sure that the thing they are investing in, so the roadway and the multimodal improvements, which is similar to your house, stays in good shape. So when tolls are collected, they go to pay for multiple things. So one of those things is the operations and maintenance of the facility to make sure it stays in good order and that people can continue to use it. And then that also typically goes to pay for the cost to collect tolls, which will be different for every facility. And I think as we get more into the details, we can share an estimate of what percentage of a toll does go to the cost to collect, meaning the staff that sits at a call center when you have a billing issue, and the cost to send out bills and bring that money in, and other customer service functions. And then the money that's left over is what goes to repay the loan that we got from bondholders. So I think that's just background information as we go into more conversations about tolling. Next slide. And then this is where I get even further into the weeds. But the reason that I need to do this is that this is work that transportation commissions are doing right now. And they will staff from the commissions will come to the meeting next month to get feedback on what they are going to ask the IBR program to study to inform that rate setting. So this is where we are at in the process right now. We are doing what is called a level 2 toll traffic and revenue study. So it identifies various toll scenarios, and a toll scenario is like a set of rates and a set of possible exemptions and a set of possible escalation or inflation on the yearly toll rate, a set of possible truck tolls, and other options. And the IBR program studies those to understand how much funding we could get from tolling. So it helps us understand how those different policy options will change who uses the facility, whether they will choose to stay home or whether they will change what time of day they travel. So we use traffic modeling to understand how those toll policies impact their choices when they cross the facility. And so right now we've developed, the next slide will cover this, 11 different toll scenarios in coordination with the transportation commissions that change different things in each scenario. Can we go to the next slide, please? It changes different things in each of those scenarios, and it informs the transportation commissions to help them determine a narrowed set of scenarios that they want to bring in for even more in-depth analysis. So I list here some of the different options that have been studied. So there's the range of rates that we have studied, the annual escalation rate, whether there's a low-income toll program. So we have some scenarios that assume there is a low-income toll program, some scenarios that don't. And then we have now, since that announcement about the Oregon toll program, we have now added or modified some of our scenarios to account for no toll projects in Oregon, so that we can understand if there are no other tolls, or if there's one other toll in Oregon, how does that impact traffic on the I-5 bridge? Or maybe it doesn't, but we want to run a traffic analysis to understand whether it does impact how people use the I-5 bridge. And then also scenarios that consider a lower pre-completion tolling rate. So I don't think I covered this in the earlier slides. The plan for IBR right now is to implement a toll in 2026 on the existing bridge to help pay for construction of the new bridge, which will start on a similar timeline. And then once the new bridge is constructed, that toll would shift over to the new bridge. So it allows us to basically start paying for the work that's happening as it happens, instead of waiting until all the work is done to start collecting the toll, which funds the construction. Okay, so next slide. And so then this is that set of scenarios that we are analyzing right now. What we are supposed to complete that later this year and provide that information to the transportation commissions. And then they will take that information and they will look at all of those 11 scenarios and say, we like this and what it does to traffic and revenue. We don't like this one because of what it does to traffic and revenue. And they will pick a narrowed set of toll scenarios that account for different pieces of what was on that last slide. And they will ask the program to study probably about 3 options in what is called a level 3 toll traffic and revenue study, which is just a more comprehensive, in-depth and kind of analysis that allows us to secure the financing that I mentioned. So it tries to really test and make sure that we can get the toll funding that we need to construct the program, and tests how those toll scenarios impact traffic to make sure we're still successful in getting that funding. So that is, we are leading up to that work. And so the transportation commissions, which will decide what goes into this level 3 toll traffic and revenue study, they want input before they decide on what those scenarios are. So that is why they are coming to the next meeting, because that will be before they make decisions on what to study, and getting that feedback will help them decide which scenarios to pick later this summer. So next slide. So as I said, tolling is supposed to start on the existing bridge in 2026, once some construction is happening in the corridor. The rates, the rate setting process will happen. It's happening right now, and it will go all the way through until late next year. So we have quite a few steps ahead of us before we actually get to an approved set of how much it will cost for each vehicle type to cross the bridge. An approved set of, here are the carpools or van pools or low-income drivers that will be exempted or have a discount. Those decisions won't happen until about 6 to 8 months before tolling begins, which would be in fall to late 2025. That's when those decisions will occur, and then tolling will happen 6 to 8 months later. And as I've already covered these last few points, but in the next meeting, we will have the WashDOT Toll Division come speak about what it's like to be a customer on the facility, and we will have staff from the transportation commissions come talk about to get feedback from all of you. So they will present some information, and then you will share, low-income toll is important to me. I wish you would toll pedestrians, or please exempt buses as they go across the bridge, and anything else that they ask you to provide feedback on. So now I am done, and I will let Johnell decide if you guys get to ask more questions.
Okay, we'll take a few more questions. Other questions?
I can't find the button to raise my hand. Sorry. This is Dina, and I was just curious, given that there aren't going to be any tolls on any of the other facilities, I'm assuming 205 is going to be experiencing a little bit more traffic as a result of people diverting. Are you also taking that into account? And what would be done about that?
Yes, so I think that's another one we can come back to specifically address, but I can provide a high-level response right now. So I think we do know that some people will probably shift to 205, but there will also be a lot of people that will either stay home or modify when they travel. As you probably know, Dina, even if you go on 205, if you're looking to get to downtown Portland, once you get on 84, you're sitting in so much traffic that it's may not be worth it for you to go on the 205 bridge and then sit in more traffic to get to downtown. So I think that's one factor that contributes to how many people may choose 205. The other thing is, during the peak time periods, 205 is often even at capacity. And so it may take longer for people to use 205 than if they were to stay on I-5. So I think that is when we get into that next level of analysis that I mentioned, I think leading into that analysis, they go more in depth looking at how things like that will impact traveler behavior, and they try to predict what toll rate will make people say, that's not worth it to me to pay, I will go to 205, or even if I have to pay 250 or whatever the number is going to be, at least I will get to my destination 20 minutes sooner. So we can only predict that so well. And I think you're right. Some people will go on 205, but a lot of people also want to be on I-5 because that connects downtown Vancouver with downtown Portland and a lot of jobs and businesses right in that corridor. So it's not super convenient to go around to 205. But we can come back with more, I guess, in-depth analysis that has been done on it.
We'll go to Martha.
Yeah, you briefly mentioned this, and I think it's a really good way to explain it to people. When you compare these tolls to your mortgage payments on your house, because you're taking out a construction bond, which is like the mortgage, you're paying it off every month or part of it off. And when you talk about how long the tolls are going to be in play, it's helpful to remind people that they often get a 30-year mortgage. And so that's all. It's just a suggestion that I found that to be helpful when I was talking to some other folks about it.
That is true. I tried to weave in that home loan thing, but I didn't carry it throughout. So you are right that the loan, repaying that construction loan would last, and we don't know how long it would last until we actually have the loan, but between 25 and 30 years. So we do know that I like to joke that I hope to still be working then, but a lot of people I work with will already be retired. Greg probably won't be on the program in 25 to 30 years when we pay off that loan, but I look forward to celebrating that. But I will add that it is still up to the legislatures. This is how it's written in legislation. Just because you pay back the loan doesn't mean the toll is removed. It is up to them whether they choose to continue that toll after construction is paid off or after the loan is paid off, or if the toll will be taken away. So the Tacoma Narrows Bridge up in the Seattle area, that one, they have specifically added legislation that says once it is paid for, that toll is removed. But a lot of other facilities, and I think this was the case in Oregon, they were not planning to remove any of those tolls once improvements were paid for, because tolls also help with travel reliability and reducing congestion.
Take one more question, and then we do need to jump to a couple more items. So Zach, one more.
First thing I just want to note, I think Greg's only 27 or 8, so he actually still might be working on this program. I just want to note that, just for the record. I think we're really good at building things and not very good at maintaining them. So that question about that kind of idea about like, we've built so many billions of dollars of things around Oregon and infrastructure for transportation, and then we don't have the money to maintain them. And I think I'm hearing from you is there will be dollars likely, or maybe not likely is not there, but it's potential that tolling continues to pay for that maintenance in the future after the bond is paid. And I just want to flag that my sense, and I'd be curious if other committee members feel this way, is there is a taxing fatigue in the region, and that people are going to say, oh, you're going to start tolling us. And of course, that'll never go away. It's just another revenue stream that you're going to milk us for, for decades and decades. And so I just want to flag that I think that's a sentiment that I am sensing in my constituency, and then something that will really need to be messaged and talked about, because that is a frustration. Like, you've already paid the bonds back and now you're just going to keep tolling us, like that kind of thing. So I just want to flag that that's something to think about.
I will. So it is up to the legislature whether that continues. And all I keep saying is give your feedback somewhere else. But I will say that the rates will be reassessed every year throughout the time that there is a toll. So even if tolls did continue, if you're no longer paying back construction bonds and you are only paying for that for operations and maintenance of the facility, there is a likelihood that the toll would reduce. And so there would be a specific conversation between the commissions to say,
how much revenue do we actually need for this facility now that the loan is paid back.
Yep.
So
I appreciate you flagging that. Thank you. And I'd also add, I mean, tolling is also a great tool for managing congestion, as you've noted. So making them go away is not necessarily a good thing. It's just something that needs to be communicated. So thank you for talking about that.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Megan. And as Megan indicated, we'll have more opportunity on this topic next month. Okay, with that, I'm going to invite Aiden Gronauer, our Assistant Director of Civil Rights and Equity, to present an update on CBAG. Aiden.
Thank you so much, everyone, for having me here this evening. Again, I'm Aiden Gronauer, the Assistant Director of Civil Rights and Equity for the Interstate Bridge Program. I'm here to provide an overview of the CBAG, or Community Benefits Advisory Group, work to date, as well as the process we've been going through and a snapshot of our upcoming work. Great, you're on the next slide. Perfect. So past meetings, in our first few meetings, members began discussing potential community benefits and engaged in a visioning exercise. So that's similar to the work that you all did, where they shared ideas of what the community could look like once the project is complete. So here you can see the list of our monthly meetings and kind of the general topics that we covered. Next slide, please. All right, so within the first batch of potential community benefits put forward, there were some that were identified to be a little more time sensitive. This was due to processes like our environmental review and cost estimating work. These time sensitive potential benefits were then refined and voted on by the CBAG members to move forward for program leadership to consider. Following the first batch, the CBAG began what will be its standard process moving forward. There will be 3 touch points with the CBAG for each category of community benefits. So again, these categories are based on the program's equity objectives that are listed in our equity framework. Those 3 touch points are the group brainstorms, then it refines the work, and then it does a fist to 5 modified consensus for recommendations of what are moved forward. The CBAG will begin with brainstorming each category before moving into the next phase of refinement for each category. Next slide, please. So this last month, we began the brainstorming phase with mobility and accessibility category. For the next few months, we will begin brainstorming for the community benefits, avoiding further harm, and then physical design categories. As a note, the community benefits category is derived from one of the equity objectives that includes benefits that don't quite fit into other categories or typical mitigation work. Next slide, please. So here we'll share some examples of potential community benefits that were part of the initial time-sensitive batch that was voted on by the CBAG members. To note, these slides do not include all of those that were voted on, but the complete list is available on our CBAG meeting summaries for January and February. That is available on the IBR website. Perfect. So for this slide, all the elements that are below will reflect the leading and best practices and accommodate for any local context and standards. So again, these are the recommendations that were expedited to move forward for time sensitivity. So under mobility and accessibility, those recommendations are connect to transit service improvements, as well as create bike amenities like repair kiosks, etc. Under physical design, what was moved forward was incorporate both active transportation facilities and green space throughout the program area, as well as use anti-graffiti designs in the program area and incorporate new technology as it is developed. Next slide, please. Under community, thank you. Under community benefits, what was expedited was transit-oriented development, as well as prioritize innovative developments on the land adjacent to the bridge, with a focus on projects that promote accessible and affordable housing. And then under avoid further harm, there were 2 items: provide a publicly accessible community benefits dashboard showing the progress on all community benefits, proposals, and projects, as well as require contractors to arrange off-street parking for their site employees where feasible and reasonable. All right. And next slide, please. Oh, actually, this is where we will move on to any questions that folks had. So I realize I went through those pretty quickly, but now opening it up to any questions the group might have. Lynn, I see your hand.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm struggling to understand how we determine what goes to CBAG and what comes to CAG. And so like when I look at slide 29, for example, how was the determination made who was going to weigh in on the need for expedited feedback?
Greg, do you want to grab this one?
No.
I'm looking for my unmute button. So before we take all of these recommendations to ESG, which will be somewhat the final arbiter of what will appear and what will not appear in the final community benefits rollout, they will come before this board for input. They will go before EAG as well for input. So that's why we put members of both CAG and EAG on there, kind of to be your eyes and ears to hear the discussion. Tom Hickey is one of the community benefit advisory member that crossed over to CAG. So yeah, we will be coming back to this group, showing you our work, taking input, also doing the same with EAG, and before it goes to ESG, the executive steering group. So hopefully, Lynn, that answered your question.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Are there other questions for Aiden?
And I know Shannon had some additional context to add as well, if Shannon wants to provide more context.
Thank you, Johnell. And sorry, y'all, I'm on my phone, so I'm not able to hop on camera right now. But I just wanted to add, I'm Shannon Singleton. I'm the community benefits lead for the program. And we have technical teams as well that have spent time looking at these potential benefits. And so some of that work on where things might land, whether that is eventually in environmental documents or contract specification, is happening with the expertise of the technical folks on the program. So that's, Lynn, where it was determined some that might be expedited or need to be expedited.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I don't know that the decisions would be any different. I'm just thinking of the members who've been part of this group for 2.5 years, and they're excited to kind of get, if we're advocating for mobility, they want to be able to visit on that and provide input. And same with bikes and ped paths and, you know, connections in specific areas. So I think that was part of what we thought we were providing when we joined. And so I guess looking for an opportunity still to do that. So someday. Thanks.
Yep, those opportunities will come about.
I see Ed's hand has been raised and Tom Hickey. So Ed, do you have some thoughts you want to share? Questions? I can't hear you though. Let me see. Are you speaking and I can't hear it? Can anyone else hear Ed? Okay.
Tom, it looks like you have your hand raised. Were you wanting to provide a comment or feedback?
Yeah, I do. I did want to tell people as the sort of crossover member between the two groups that there's a list of suggested, suggested benefits that we've created go way beyond the ones you've seen today. There's probably 6 or 8 pages of benefits, and these are just examples. So if you're interested in the topic, I'd recommend that you look the things up on the website and go through those in detail to find the suggestions on the topics you're interested in, because there's a bunch of stuff about bikes and elevators and parks and a million kind of things that all are of interest to certain constituencies. So don't feel like what you saw today is the be all end all of what's on that list.
Absolutely. And we can make sure we provide the direct link to where it's at on our website to all of you. Ed, I see your hand.
Yes, can you hear me okay now? I have a much easier question. I'm really interested in under the physical design aspect of this. It says use anti-graffiti designs in the program area and incorporate new technology as it is developed. And one of my hot buttons is graffiti. I find it so amazing that when you're traveling anywhere on the highway system, I mean, how are you going to do that? I'm just curious.
So Ed, I'll jump in and start, and others can pile on. So we're looking at the use of public art to be an anti-graffiti strategy. We know that when you have public art, people are more likely not to tag it. We're also looking at, do we do plantings that are that reach like ivy covered, which I know is the DOTs don't like that as a strategy because it can be deleterious to the life of concrete. Also, we've talked about anti-graffiti coatings that may get incorporated in some key areas. So there's a lot of things that are being talked about in the graffiti area, because we're going to have a lot of space that on walls, on piers, that we want folks to look at and say and be proud of, rather than look at as an eyesore.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we have time to go to our next presentation. Salome and I were back and forth as to whether or not we might have enough time with the healthy dialogue from earlier in our meeting. If you have any other follow-up questions for Aiden, then let us know, but I would like for us to be able to try and at least allow some space for Salome to be able to present our community engagement update.
Hi, everyone. Salome here, she, her pronouns. I'm the IBR Community Engagement Lead, and I'm here to just give you an update of all the things that's been happening relative to community engagement since the beginning of the year. Apologies that I am looking kind of weird right now. I had to park and do this conversation from my car. So I am ready to go, and we can move to the next slide. So here on this slide, we have a list of just the high level engagement by the numbers. This time frame I mentioned was from January to about mid-March. We had 45 different opportunities in which we engage the public. Some of these were presentations, interviews, tours, office hours, public briefings, listening sessions, community forums, and events related to our CBO or community-based organization mini grants. Next slide, please. Here on this slide is an image of all the different logos from the different organizations that we worked with. Those organizations are the Seoul District Business Association, Partners in Career, Kadakasa, Odyssey World, International Education Services, the Slavic Community Center of the Northwest, the National Alliance of Mental Illness, or NAMI, Southwest Washington, Sakura 39ers, and also last but not least, our other organization was Independent Living Resources. These organizations all represented the different equity priority communities that we serve here on the program. And we had a pleasure of working with these 8 groups. As you may note, for some of our CAG members who have been here for a little bit, Partners in Career and the Slavic Community Center of the Northwest are 2 organizations that received grants during our last cycle. And received grants during this cycle. We did have other returning community-based organizations that did apply, but just wanted to highlight in case someone said that that name looked familiar, that may be why. Next slide, please. So here, we're going to focus in a little bit on the engagement by the numbers based on the community-based organizations' work. So the community-based organizations collectively held 7 listening sessions and 2 community forums. We had 235 participants across these 9 sessions, and 97% of the folks who came to those sessions self-identified as being a part of an equity priority community. And one thing to note about the 97% is that it was self-identified. And so even if a staff member felt that they were a part of an equity priority community member, if the person did write none, we respected that. And so we have that number at 97%. Next slide, please. So on this slide is just a snapshot at a high level of what we heard through comments, whether they were made during the meeting or also in post surveys after events. One of the top comments that we got was that community members were having difficulty connecting with the environmental evaluation process, or NEPA. They gave us a lot of recommendations of outlets on how to reach community members. And when it came to asking them what topics they're most interested in, after we gave them a basic overview, a lot of folks brought up safety and earthquake resiliency, future economic opportunities, future economic impacts, the impact of tolling and affordability, traffic and congestion relief, and bridge design, aesthetic, tourism, and recreational purpose. And so with that being said, again, this is just a high level overview of some of the things that we heard during the sessions and surveys. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we always try to do is make sure that we incorporate the feedback that we did hear from individuals. So this slide just goes into talking about how we plan to incorporate that feedback. So a lot of the feedback that we got, whether it be about the actual content or just how the event went, that will help us to inform what kind of events we offer in the future. An example could be that, now understanding that folks are having a hard time relating to some of the environmental content, we might make sure that we keep to a more listening session style format, where we have the ability to make sure folks can ask questions and, make a smaller room for more dialogue. As we also looked at the comments, we talked about more direct outreach emails to individuals, helping them know about particular opportunities and collecting information on what their interest lies and making sure that we're communicating about where their interests lie. We also plan to share after meetings. This is, not only just sharing information about future content, but also information in regards to what we heard and how we used their information and their feedback. Next is Next is that we incorporate their feedback through communications and slide development. So really listening to folks' opinions around, oh, when you phrase something this way, it really helps me understand, and making sure that in future content, we keep that same cadence or that same flow to try to make sure that we're continuing to use tools and strategies and language that works, and developing more to be more effective. And then lastly, closing the feedback loops to show people that we use, how we use their data and feedback. And so a piece of that is how we modeled this report with you all, because back in the winter, I came in front of you all before we started doing our miniature grant work, asking you what kind of information you'd like to see, what things we should keep in mind. And now I'm back in front of you, closing that feedback loop to show you how your suggestions to me were used, how the team moved forward with the miniature grant program, and then providing you some of that direct numbers and data that we spoke about. Next slide, please. So here's just a snapshot of some of the things that we're considering for future engagement opportunities planned to support the release of the draft supplemental environmental impact statement. Some of those are public briefings to further understand like what is NEPA and the process, and what is an environmental impact statement even, and also what to expect. Some of the ideas around listening sessions where, you know, what are being studied and why are we studying, and how does it impact life for users. And then also an equity roundtable in regards to how to participate in the public comment period. So these are still some just ideas that we're working with that are based on feedback that we not only got from you all, but also from participants in the sessions that we had. Next slide, please. So here on the slide, I have a couple of discussion questions that we wanted to chat with you all about. I know that was a lot of data points and information I just gave you about previous engagement, but right now we're at a place where we are getting ready for tabling at other events over the summer and into the fall. And so we thought it'd be a great opportunity to come back to you all to ask you what are some things that you want us to keep in mind as we go forward with tabling. And also recognizing that many of you have sent suggestions of events that we will try to go to. Right now, the team is in the process of mapping out the dates and all the different events. And hopefully at the next CAG, we'll be able to tell you exactly where we're going and where we registered at. But we wanted to take this time and opportunity to give you the chance to tell us what would you like us to keep in mind. What, if any, feedback do you have or like to add in response to the data I just shared with you? What are maybe some data points you want us to consider collecting during our summer events? And would you like to receive reports like this on a quarterly basis that do a deeper dive into what we're hearing, how we're incorporating it, and how we move forward? So with that, I'll turn it over to Lisa and Johnell to moderate the questions.
Thanks, Salome. It looks like Sam's got his hand up.
Hey, Salome. Again, great presentation. I'm going to repeat what I said, I think, last couple of years. And I utterly failed during all the past times to participate. Yes, I would like the quarterly reports, but also if the opportunities could be made for us to actually man the booth with you. I know that my schedule was just completely full and I couldn't take advantage of any of those. You did make them available to me. If you could make them available once again, I'm going to do my very best to be there.
Yeah, Sam, thank you for mentioning that, and thank you always for your offer. We actually are developing a process to make it easier for advisory group members to join us in tabling. We know that last year, like, it was a bit of a larger ask to ask for, like, you know, the blocks of time of like 4 or 3 hours. So we're like, maybe we can develop a way to have shorter shifts available so that advisory group members can come to the booth for, like, you know, an hour or however much time they can to join us and provide materials to help them, like, talking points and other things like that, so they can actually have a fun time with us and table with us. So definitely we'll keep that in mind, and thank you for the continued offer.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions or comments? Salome has several questions for the CAG, and we'd love to hear your feedback. Yes, Zachary.
I was just gonna check in and see, Salome, if there's any progress on some of the like visualization stuff, so people can like see what the bridge would look like if you're standing in Hayden Island or standing on the riverfront or whatever it is, because I'd imagine that'd be like buttered popcorn for people to eat that up. They would love to. So I'm just wondering if there's any new news on that. I know this committee has asked about those visualizations, like virtual reality or something like that.
Yeah, and so that would be something that would be developed by our comms teams a little bit more, since the visualizations are things that they develop. But it's something that, we would definitely want to use as community engagement as a means to help people really get the real look and feel, if you will. And so one of the things that we're hoping to do is try to figure out how to utilize tools such as that to help people get the sense of magnitude, or help make it feel a little bit more real to them. I do want to note that, like, in the listening sessions that we had prior, folks really were interested in some of the early visualizations as well. And so I know a community member mentioned to us, like, it would be really helpful if we would even simply just have a simple picture that is from the angle that the visualization is showing, so they can have the comparison there. So it is something that we have heard, and I definitely will work with Kimberly Webb on our comms team to see what's possible in terms of trying to make this feel a little bit more real and less abstract. Because I also am an artist, so anything that has to do with art being used as a tool, I am totally down for.
Okay, Irina, and then Bill.
Yeah. I kind of like want to get the data point from you guys. When you go to these community events, could you assess how many people are still not aware that we are going to replace the bridge?
Yes,
because
Irina.
Concerned, because sometimes I talk to people like, what? The Columbia crossing died and nothing is, I'm like, really? We are walking, there will be a bridge. So I'm kind of like, I want to know how many people are still in this stage that their bridge is not getting replaced.
Yeah, that's a really great question and data point to collect, Irina. I think what we can do, I know that for the IBR hosted events, we do ask that question of if they've come to an IBR event before and if they've heard about the program. And I think we can try to incorporate that for our in-person things as well, as we're talking to people, even if it is just a general sense and not as scientific. I think that can be definitely an addition that we can make happen. And, that's very common, unfortunately, especially with our folks who are non-native English speakers. They tend to be the ones who most often are not aware of what's happening from a general perspective.
I guess it's my turn. This is Bill. One of the questions I know that I don't know that it's been asked yet, or even be able to picture some way, what is the traffic patterns and how are they going to build this thing and keep traffic going across the bridge back and forth? What's it going to look like? How hard is it going to be to access? All those kinds of questions. We've got a picture of the bridge, what it looks like, what they're trying to, figure it out. But what are they going to do? Are they going to move it, because like with the Selward Bridge, they moved it over. Are they going to just stop one side of the traffic and everybody's going to be on one side of the bridge? How is it going to be built in this kind of a situation? And that's the kind of questions I think we can at least visualize to them so they know and be prepared for some of this kind of stuff.
So
yeah, we do. Oh, go ahead, Greg.
I'll jump in on this one, Salome. So, Bill, we are currently working on how this project will be delivered, which means some of the staging of traffic and where traffic will be. It is our plan to maintain 3 lanes in each direction for the vast majority of time. Now, there'll be times when we will have to shut down lanes. But yeah, the new bridge will be built approximately 100 to 150 feet west of the existing bridge. And then we will be building tie-ins to the existing freeway alignment. But those maintenance of traffic visuals are probably a little bit further down the line. We have to determine a few other elements before we can get there.
And you probably have to determine who the construction are and what plans they might have. The constructors, I should say.
We may get better ideas from those folks. So.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, I know Salome is needing to leave at 5:45, but that does not mean that if you have any additional feedback or comments that we are interested in hearing what you might have to say. I appreciate the feedback relative to wanting to hear from Salome and the community engagement team quarterly on the feedback that we're hearing, and some good comments and questions as to what to maybe ask our community as we're out and about. So with that, this is the time
Lisa?
where we, oh yeah.
Just one last thing I'd like to note for folks that just to highlight this last set of engagement. This last set of engagement had some really great events that occurred, such as our multilingual press conference, which is the first time we've done that. And we did a youth press conference as well that both included tours. And one of the things that we also had a lot of fun with this last session of CBO miniature grants is we had some sessions that were completely in a different language. And so it was really fun to get to work with the team and reach new communities. I know that one of our sessions was in Chuukese, another one was completely in Russian. And so it was really fun to be a part of that. And I know that the staff had a really great time getting to do that kind of new and innovative work with some of these community members.
Thank you, Salome. Anything else that you want to share? I didn't mean to wrap up our community engagement too quickly. Okay. All right. Thank you. If we can have the slides again, we want to share with you the next upcoming advisory group meetings. Our equity advisory group is May 20th from 5:30 to 7:30, and our community benefits advisory group is May 23rd from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. So we invite you to tune in to those 2 meetings if you have the opportunity to. This is the time where we open up our meeting to public comment, and we will go through the comment instructions real quick. These are the same instructions that Johnell reviewed at the beginning of the meeting. We want to make sure, though, that if you missed the beginning of the meeting, you do still have the opportunity to provide feedback to our advisory group. I also just wanted to mention that we did receive a comment through our info box, and that comment was passed along to our community advisory group. So they had that prior to joining our meeting today. In order to make a verbal comment, we would ask that you do that via phone. You can do so by dialing 1-646-931-3860 or 1-408-638-0968. The meeting ID is 986-0940-5983. The passcode 701376. We ask that you dial *9 to raise your hand. I will call on you to provide public comment, and dial *6 to unmute yourself. We ask that you provide your name and affiliation. We provide 10 minutes within our meeting for public comment, and so there will be a 2-minute timer for each person that does provide public comment. All right, next slide. As I mentioned, we did receive some public comment via our info@interstatebridge.org. If you missed the opportunity to call in today, or you didn't send us any information ahead of time, we still invite you to provide us feedback. We do ask that you include in the subject line CAG Public Comment so that we can make sure that we provide that comment directly to our advisory group. We also have a hotline. Happy to return any phone calls and follow up with anyone that wants to reach out to us. We have a number in Washington and in Oregon. Our toll-free number is 888-503-6735. Again, in your message, we would ask that you state CAG Public Comment so we can ensure that our community advisory group members receive the feedback directly. All right, with that, Robert, you are managing our tech. Do we have anyone signed up to provide us public feedback?
Hello, Lisa. No, I'm not seeing anyone joining in for public comment.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Robert. All right. Well, with that, there is still what looks like out my window a little bit of sunshine. So maybe I will just ask if Administrator Johnson, you have anything that you might want to add, then we'll pass it to our co-chairs to close the meeting.
No, I just want to thank everyone. This is a long slog. This committee is the oldest of our committees and has been at it for 3.5 years. So I appreciate you guys. It's important when the undersecretary at the USDOT heard, our range of committees and how we are engaging. Once again, he was very complimentary. So those compliments should be going directly to you folks for giving of your time and expertise. So thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments from our co-chairs as you wrap up and we close out our meeting?
I don't have any.
Well, Ed and I just wish you happiness and sunshine. So thank you all.
Absolutely. Enjoy.
You've got a comment from Dina.
I was just going to say, Dina, is your hand up?
It is. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
No.
Maybe I wrote down the wrong date, but I thought the bi-state tolling commission meeting you said was going to be, or bi-state tolling meeting was going to be on May 17th, and to go to the IBR website to get more information, but I'm not seeing it on there. So I'm just curious, like, where do we find that info?
That date is actually the 23rd of May.
Okay.
So if you send an email in to myself or Megan Hodges, we will make sure you get it. Megan has already sent a link out to Irina, so we'll be more than happy to get it to you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate you all.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.